evening from Vietnam. Good afternoon to you, Ulla. Thank you very much for spending your afternoon to join our program and share your stories to our global audience. And on behalf of the listeners around the world, thank you.
Thank you. I am so happy to be part of your amazing series. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ulla, you haven't been to our country yet. So now you have a new friend, new family. So if you decided to travel to Southeast Asia, you make sure you put Vietnam on the list. You let us know, and we would love to take you around, okay?
I certainly will. Thank you. Very fascinating. Thank you.
And earlier to this conversation, you mentioned that you have a friend who is Vietnamese in New York, right? So I bet that you are a little bit familiar with our culture in here. It's very honor for our audience to have you to share a little bit about who Ulla is and the work she's been doing. Would you please do that honor for us?
Of course. Well, it's a beautiful thing to always look in retrospect, because you can see how there is guidance throughout our lives. It is often in the now that we worry about the future, but now that you're giving me an opportunity to look into my story, immediately I'm thinking that how my answer would be how I really truly was guided since I was a little girl, and especially now in retrospect, I can see the guidance. And because of that, that makes me want to say to everyone who is listening, including myself, that let's also remember that that guidance goes into the future. So in the future, sometime we are going to look back at this point and we're going to see all the signs that led us to that point. So when we look at the guidance that we can see so clearly in our past, we can also take that as a sign that we can trust that we are guided in the now, even if we don't always know where we are going next. And so I feel that since I was a little girl, I loved communing with nature. I was always playing with the birds and trees and making stuff with earth and whatever I found in the forests. Loved swimming in the lakes. And I feel that that was part of my formation to listen and be intuitive and be present with the invisible world, or not so readily visible, because in a way it's very tactile or very real, but it's more subtle than what we face in the busy regular time. And that led me to really want to do something in my life that would help people, that would inspire people. And I can see that too, that was the kind of the leading line in whatever choices I made, or whatever changes were presented to me that were surprising along the path. I made some changes that people around me said, are you kidding me? That's not smart. You should finish this and do this and that and the other thing. Don't just uproot yourself and do something else. And yet I had to follow that inner voice. And sometimes people say, I had a good career going on in New York and I decided to move to Peru. And people are saying, what? Why? Go visit. But what are you going to do there? I don't know. I don't know anybody there. I don't know. But I just felt that that was my calling. And it's not always the smartest thing from the outside. But the most important thing is to learn to listen to your own inner voice, and to learn to distinguish the voice of fear and the voice of guidance and the voice of ooh, butterflies in my stomach, but I need to do this anyway. And teach those butterflies to fly in formation for us and go anyway. And so I'm very grateful also for all the people that I have met, again, since I was a little girl, because I feel that each one kind of brought like a piece of me, because they revealed something that I needed to carry forward to the world, or that I needed for myself to be whole and complete. And that, of course, that journey continues, and you are part of it.
Oh, I know. When I interview the Holocaust survivor, Dr. Edith Eger, she wrote a book, beautiful, called The Choice, and it's been so internationally. And on that book, she said that she believed that we are sent to one another. So you are sent to me, I'm sent to you, so that we are here to do something together to help people to get better. And that's beautiful. And thank you so much for helping me on that journey, that I'm responding to my calling also. Okay.
Yes, yes. And I feel that now technology is on our side, in that sense that we can have this conversation from miles away from each other, and we can feel that we speak the same language, the human language. And I think that that's how we build something way bigger than you know, what's going on in the official world. And I feel that we need to choose our own path in a way that we can make this world a little bit better in whatever we do, instead of focusing on something that makes us feel defeated or makes us feel helpless. We can witness that, but then we have to immediately turn away from that and say, okay, what's my part in here? What can I do? And how can I be there for the, you know, for love, for joy, for creativity, for support, for compassion? And sometimes we need to give that to ourselves. It's not always for other people. Sometimes we need to just ask, what do I need, so that I can be, you know, my best and my most whole in this world.
Thank you. Yes. Ulla, in our conversation is designed to help people to understand more about you. So maybe through that conversation, and if they look retrospect into their life, they may be able to find something that can help them to self-discovery and self-mastery and do something. Okay. So you and I would travel time together. How does that sound to you?
Okay, shoot.
And I'll start so that we can have a conversation, okay? When I was little, I grew up in a very poor community in a city called Da Nang, so it's in the middle of Vietnam. And that city was ruined during the war, and there's a lot of, aftermath, put it that way, right? So one day we have electricity, and the next 1 or 2 days we didn't have. So the only thing that entertained me during the at night is when we see the moon rises, and then we see how beautiful and bright the neighborhood is, right? So my first dream about the world or something that I would do in the world is I wanted to become an astronaut and fly into the moon and enjoy the shining light up there. But life didn't give me any opportunity to do anything close to what I wanted. It took me to really different paths, right? So for that little girl, Ulla, how did you grow up when you were young?
There are so many stories that come to my mind, but like I already said, I did grow up playing in the forest. I grew up at a time when we were not, the TV had two stations. So we didn't watch TV, and only the program started like at a certain hour and then it ended. So it was a different world. I learned to read very early on because reading allowed me to travel places. And one thing I remember very well is that my family was hosting a Native American man. He was from the Ojibwe Nation, and he lived in our house. He was visiting Finland, and I was maybe 5, and I realized really fast that he doesn't understand me if I speak to him. And so I would run to my mom and I would say, okay, I want to say this to him. How do I say it? And my mom would say it slowly in English. I would run to him and I would say it, repeat it. And then he would say something slowly to me. I would run to my mom and he said this. And now what does that mean? And what do I say next? And I'm remembering this so fondly because that was my first fascinating. I'm moved when I'm thinking about it because it really planted that seed of curiosity of other people and an understanding that I want to learn languages. I want to be able to communicate with all these people. And we became best friends. I held his hand and he was this big guy. Of course, I was very little, so he might not have been so big. But And actually, interestingly enough, when I was living in the United States, I visited Minnesota a lot, and I was also in the Canadian side. And I have Ojibwe friends, and I told them this story that my very first real important encounter with someone who doesn't speak my language was with the Ojibwe man, and his name was George. And so I honor these type of encounters that kind of awakened me to understanding, that no matter where we are from, we have the same human heart. And it also was the beginning of that curiosity of the other. And every time I'm from a small town, not a village, but a small town. And there were no foreigners there. And if I saw somebody speak English, I would just quickly run ahead of them and kind of nonchalantly go like, excuse me, what time is it? Excuse me, anything, so that I could make a conversation with them. And in my neighborhood, there were Russian workers drawing the gas line, the gas pipe. And I was fascinated by them. I didn't speak Russian, nor did my family speak Russian, so I couldn't do the technique that I did with English. So when they walked by, I, again, nonchalantly in my yard, I would start singing a Russian folk song. And they joined me, and we sang songs together. So again, it was like, okay, we belong to each other, and we find a way to communicate through our hearts. And so I feel that even if when I was child, Finland was very, very homogeneous. It felt so important for me to make those connections and to understand that. And since I was little, I wanted to travel the world. I always wanted to go to different places and meet all the people in the world, and like you are doing in your program, listen to their stories and then maybe tell their stories further. And music became my vehicle, So through being a musician, I was able to travel. I was invited to different places, and I remember when I was in New York, and I decided I want to now perform all over the world more than I have ever done. And I said, like, okay, I don't know how to arrange it, but please hear me. Let's do this. And I put on my website that Ulla travels the world and performs everywhere and whatnot. Within 2 weeks, I just got the call, and within 2 weeks, I was booked to go to Japan, to Mongolia, to I forgot if that was within the 2 weeks. One trip was to Europe, I think France, Germany, and then a little later there was Azerbaijan and Georgian Republic, and I was like, yeah, high five universe, let's go. So that's why I always say, let's play with the universe, because you are the universe, and you really, it's not out there. It's not that you are trying to reach something really outside of you, but to align yourself to what already is. And part of that is dreaming. And sometimes I think that when we get older, we forget to dream, or things become heavy, and we feel that it's not realistic to dream. But realistic is what we make it, really. And reality can be so much more magical than what we think it is at times, when things feel heavy.
I'm writing the note at the same time I'm talking to you, so I make sure that I'm not gonna forget this conversation. Since we're still in the time travel, I want to stay with that a little bit. When you were little, right? And earlier in this conversation, I realized that there's a Ulla that really enjoys swimming and playing with nature, right? And trying to touch the invisible world. At the same time, now is another version of Ulla is really trying to make friends with with people, trying to connect with the head and the heart, trying to communicate and spread the love since very young age, right? So was there anybody in the family that role model you, or is that something that Ulla just developed naturally herself?
I love that question. Thank you. I think it was very much my thing, but I also felt very supported to be who I am. So I didn't feel that I was trying to be molded to be like somebody else, but I was supported to be who I am by especially by my mom. And my grandmother too. And my grandmother took care of me a lot when my mom was a teacher, so she was at school. So my grandmother was really such a simple person, and my mom also was similar. Now that when she was older or elderly, but my grandmother kind of started it. Like, if you would ask her, how are you? She would every time think very like, well, now that you ask, I'm really well, thank you. Now that you ask, I have to say, I can't find anything to complain about my life. And and my mom was the same way, like, I'm really well, nothing to complain. And I made a note that I want to be like that, because it is our choice. And of course, I've had my moments of complaining, and I've had my moments of it not working so simply, but always kind of coming back to that this is my story, and to find things to be grateful for, and something that with my mom as a little girl also, we would talk a lot about, let's say, kind of mystical things as if they were totally normal, and nothing like woo-woo too much, but also not like, oh, that's not possible. So she was a physics teacher, so she explored the world through the wonders of physics, but she was attracted to Einstein, who also was such a visionary. She was attracted to Richard Feynman, who was a crazy physicist, and so multi-talented, just like Einstein was a musician as well. So, and she, when she retired, she became a visual artist. So she started painting and doing that, and she kept that kind of at bay when she was still working. But there was that allowing to explore and encouragement, and I think I didn't feel that I needed ask so much permission, because in those days, you know, children went out to play and they were out all day and nobody knew where they were. They didn't have cell phones or whatnot, and then they showed up sometime to eat. You know, so it was such a different existence, different world. One other story about, kind of to answer your question, was it my thing? I learned from the neighboring girl that they are having auditions for the local music school for, you know, piano lessons or whatever instrument you would like to apply to. And I wanted to do it. I really wanted to go. I wanted to go to that audition, but my parents were not home. And so I couldn't really ask them if I could go. And we lived quite far away from the center. So I asked the neighboring girl if I could, you know, go with them, because her mom had a car. But she was like, she said, no, we don't have room in the car. And I was like, okay. She didn't want, I think she didn't want me to audition. And so I went through all the pockets in the house, and I was able to find like pennies, you know, and come up with the fee for the bus. And I ran to the bus stop, and my mom came out of the same bus where I was going in. And I just said going in, hey, Mom, I'm going to audition for the music school. I'll tell you later. And she was just like, whoa, what just happened? I was 7.
Wow.
And so I went to town center. I went to the music school. I presented myself. Hello, I'm here for the auditions. And they were like, okay, here are the papers. You need to fill these in. I knew how to write, you know, my name and address. But then there was like parent signature. And I was like, with tears in my eyes, they said, what shall I do? Because I don't have my parents here with me. And they said, well, did you come by yourself? Yeah, I took the bus and I came because I really want these music lessons. And in the end, they said, okay, take the test and we'll deal with that later. You're here, so why don't you take the test? And I loved the testing. I was like, can you do the rhythm thing one more time? Because I really love those. That was fun. And I think I got in just because I was so enthusiastic. And they got my parents' signature eventually. But and of course, it took a moment before they gave us the results. So my parents were like, don't be too disappointed if you don't get in, you can try again, because they hadn't prepared me in any way for the auditions, but I got in. And that was kind of the beginning of my musical career, because I just heard about those auditions and I found the pennies and I took the bus.
Wow. Ulla, if you, back then, you definitely didn't know, you know, the answer for why you're doing that. But now you look back, retrospect, like you're saying, right? It's the responding to the universe callings that you did. You went to every, you know, like clothes in the house to pick the the penny and the penny to get into the bus and to attend that audition, and that become your musical vehicle for you to later travel in the world, right? If you did not do that, perhaps different things will happen, different paths will happen on the way also. So when you say that at early age in your life, you wanted to work with people, to help people, and to do something that helping people, and at that really young, really fresh mind, what was your thinking about maybe the future way that Ulla is gonna help people with, or what kind of job that you are going to do when you grow up?
You know, that changed at some point, because I think at some point I felt disappointed with people. Not so much with my family, but something happened within me that my inner surge shifted a little. And I really wanted to be veterinarian because I wanted to help animals. I felt like, you know, we talked about nature, but I also felt that with animals, there's such purity, and they are so much wiser than people are. And I, when I was, you know, like 12, 13, I went to the stables and I rode horses, and I had a horse that I was assigned to, you know, take care of in the riding school. And I would sit hours with the horse and just tell him all my life story. And the horse was my therapist. And I felt that he was the only one who really understood me, you know, like a young girl starting to blossom into you know, growing up in a way that you start feeling the responsibility becoming bigger. So the horse was really an important part of my team at that time. And then I really felt that I want to help animals. So I want to become veterinarian, and I want to become scientist, because I want to understand how things work, and I want to discover new ways to help. And that at that time it was animals, really. And at the stables, there was one woman who had her own horse, and she also had this beautiful dog, like really wise, big dog, a Rottweiler. And I fell in love with that dog. And I said to my mom, like, okay, could I have a dog, but I want a Rottweiler? And she was just like, well, if you save up the money, I can promise you that, because she didn't believe that I could save up the money. But I immediately started doing little chores here and there, and I started and then I said, okay, I have the money now, and I already have, you know, talked with the breeder of the same, you know, breeder that dog in the stables was, and there are puppies being born at this date, and so can we they needed the parents, of course, to kind of make the deal. You can't have a child buy a dog, especially a big dog like that. So that's how then I got my first dog, and she became then my best friend, and I walked with her all over and told her all my all my worries. And so animals have been also part of my journey. And then in secondary school, I did take, you know, the largest course of mathematics and physics and chemistry, because I had that goal in mind that I want to apply to veterinary school. And even to the point that my mom had consulted her colleague who had lots of animals at home, saying that, should I be worried about my daughter, because I was saying that I hate people but I love animals. It was that extreme at some point. And her colleague very wisely said to my mom, don't worry, if she loves animals, she will love people. and she was very wise, because then that gave my mom also peace of mind in a way, to support my love for animals and allowing me to go through that phase. And sure enough, you know, it has become love just in general, not just people, not just animals, but just love. And I talk a lot about leadership of love, like how we need to lead from love and from heart. So it was just an interesting phase in finding who I am and finding what I need to develop within me to become who I need to be. And of course, that too is still unfolding as long as we are here.
So since at what age or at what occasion that you started to talk to the universe and started to understand the calling from the universe for Ulla?
I think that I didn't call it the universe at that time, but like I said, I was talking to the horse, I was talking to the dog, I was talking to the trees, I was talking to the wind, I was talking to just whatever you would call it. So I have been talking a lot. Actually, my mom said that I started talking when I was 1 and I never stopped. So I am a storyteller in that sense, but I have been asking, and you could call it a prayer, but it's not traditional prayer in any particular way. But you could say that it's prayer. But I feel that all that talking is a certain kind of prayer. I also consider that when I play my flute, it's certain kind of prayer. It's communicating with the sacred, with the divine, with source, with the universe, with God, with goddess, with, you know, with whoever wants to call that that with 100,000 names.
So the universe, whatever that is, 1,000 million different things that made up the universe in Ulla, right, started to respond to your conversations, okay, that way, right? And at what occasion that you starting to not only understood the message to the universe, but then you also say, okay, you are going to help other people also understand the message, communicate with the universe, so that they could, you know, go through the whole transformative journey themselves.
That too kind of built kind of organically along the way, because I have always been a teacher at heart. And I started teaching something, you know, at a very early age. When I was music student, I taught you know, younger students, you know, even when I was under 20 years old, I had some younger students, and I always felt that people who were drawn to study with me, or who were just sent to me, you know, by the universe or whatever, they came for a deeper reason. The flute study was just a disguise. It was just an excuse to get them into that conversation. I just recently, actually, this was later, this was still, you know, this was in New York later when I was a student there, but I recently received a beautiful email from a student who had studied. Every Sunday I went to her home to teach flute, and she wrote to me that she's now a very successful businesswoman in New York, and you know, but she wrote to me that those flute lessons were so important in her formation and in her becoming as successful that she has become. Because when other kids went to church or synagogue, she went to her flute lessons, and that she got that opening to listening to guidance and higher power through our, playing the flute and our conversations of being an instrument. Mm-hmm. That was actually supposed to be practical. She learned to play the flute as well. but my style of teaching includes the whole being. So in a way, I felt that it is my mission, it is my purpose, to whatever capacity, is to just be an instrument for people and allow whatever needs to unfold for them. But it's not like, well, I'm now going to teach you how the universe works. I'm going to show. No, I'm allowing people to come with questions, and I'm allowing basically also them to answer their own questions. Mm-hmm. And kind of showing them that they do have answers within them. So in a gradual way, this has become then now my profession as well, because I had been talking about signs of the universe and following the signs and gathering stories, personal stories that I can share with people. But then when I was walking down the beach in Hawaii, I think it was 2017. I asked the universe, okay, what is my next step? I had just given a workshop in Honolulu on what is your next step, and I realized, like, okay, what is my next step? And it came to me. I said out loud when the waves were roaring in that, okay, I would love to give a TEDx talk. I don't know where to even start. Where do I find a way to have a TEDx talk? But then I said out loud, it's like, well, you know how to get one for me, so go to work. I would love to do this. And really, to be honest, I don't know if I got the memo or if who got it first, because the next morning I had an email waiting for me from Big Sky, Montana. Hi, this is Eric. I don't know if you remember me. We had breakfast in New York, with my aunt a few years ago, but we have a, TEDx series here in Big Sky, Montana. Would you like to be one of our speakers? And I was just like, let me think about it. High five, universe. And then my question was like, okay, what am I going to speak? Because I felt I have 7 million possibilities. I would love to share so much, and I wanted it to be meaningful. And signs of the universe kept coming up, and I was just like, no, I've been talking about them so much, but that's exactly why. But no, but I want something more impactful. I mean, people have been going through like really devastating things, and I don't want to be talking about signs of the universe. I want it to be more, more deep, more something profoundly life-changing. It kept insisting, and I thought, okay, we'll do that. And again there, little did I know that was exactly the topic that then reached and keeps reaching so many hearts and so many people. That's why then when it started living its own life and people started asking me questions and people started coming to me like, I saw this sign and I thought, okay, now I need to organize myself around this, because there is certainly need for this, and the universe has given me this opportunity, an amazing platform that I cannot I couldn't buy that kind of publicity that just started coming when people started listening to that TEDx talk. So then I started more focusing on this service that I had been doing for years already on the side. And then COVID came, so I was already having this platform of, you know, helping people and supporting people in a way. And I had been doing my sessions at a distance already.
Wow.
So, and I feel, you know, you see how I always go on tangents here, but I also feel that everything since I was a little girl, you know, is part of this journey where I am right now. And I keep reminding myself, actually, and thank you for allowing me to think of these stories, because I just posted the other day a picture of me at maybe 8 or 9 years old, and I really felt deeply that I want to promise that little girl that I will keep carrying her light forward.
Wow.
That I will keep fulfilling her dreams that she didn't even know how to have yet. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing for all of us to do, to now, as who we are, look at the picture of us when we were little and say to that one, hey, little one, let's go.
Wow.
We can do it now. I'm here for you. I love you. Let's do it. I really honor you. And then the child can give you his or her magic.
You know, when we get older, right, there's so many responsibilities, so many pressure on our shoulder, and that little version of ourselves faded under a lot of different priorities in life, right? And I really hope that, like the message you just said, if we can high five that little self and give that little self a bit of love and say, okay, and we love you. Let's bring back our dreams. Let's bring back the creative talent within us, and let's make something best of ourselves. And that is the sign the universe is telling us every single day, but we miss seeing it, right? So teach me and the audience, what's the baby steps that we can do today to start to realize that signs in our life, and then, you know, to respond to it properly?
Well, I think the first one is really to stop and just be and ask yourself, and I do this all the time because also things are moving really fast right now, energetically and otherwise in the world. So I do this periodically, you know, if not every day, very often. I ask myself, who am I? And who do I want to be? And is there any limiting program running in me, that voice that says, no, that's too big, or you can't do that? And really be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what do I need? What is my dream? And start writing that. One very beautiful technique is to write a letter as you now to that little one, and then read that out loud to yourself, and let that little one hear what she or he needed to hear, not regretting that nobody ever said these things, but now be the one to say those things. And then another letter. Tune in to your own wisdom and imagine yourself, you know, 20, 30, 50 years from now, depending on your age, as an you know, let's say 90-year-old or 100-year-old version of you, a wise version of you, and have channel a letter from that wise version of you to you now, and have that letter be everything that you need to hear right now, and then read that out loud to yourself, and maybe even record it on your phone and listen back to it in your own voice. Start telling a new story and watch where you are telling an old story that traps you and triggers emotions that limit you, that weigh you down. And that kind of cleanup, it takes our whole life. It's never done because we are such a universe of layers and layers, but it becomes easier to let go of heavy stories that we keep carrying with us, and start really imagining, like a child would imagine, a new story, a new wonderful story where we really can fulfill the energy of our dreams, the essence of our dreams. Like you wanted to be an astronaut, or you wanted to go to the moon, but the energy and essence of that really carried you somewhere else. I wanted to be a veterinarian, but music took me. I never applied to veterinary school because music started taking me elsewhere. That's okay. Still, that dream carries you forward. And I have to say, just last year, I got a puppy, and she is also a Rottweiler, just like my puppy years and years and years ago. I was traveling the world in between and couldn't have an animal. But last year I decided that I'm going to commit to that kind of lifestyle, that I can partner with an animal again. And I have a year and some months old Rottweiler girl with me, and she's part of the Wise Woman team.
So, beautiful advice to hear. I have two last questions for this conversation, Ulla. And you mentioned one word is, I think, a lot in this conversation. All right. And my wife, Vivian, and I, we've been on the quest to help people to understand how amazing people out there in the world expand and grow their ability to think. So the question for you is, how have you been growing your ability to think over the years?
I think that always allowing my curiosity to lead, and reading a lot, and reading in different languages, having conversations with people from all over the world, like yourself. This is so inspiring and beautiful and miraculous, really. And allowing that curiosity to ask questions and then going for the answers. I love writing too. I love exploring with sound. So I feel that creativity and emotional intelligence needs to go hand in hand with the ability of thinking. I feel that thinking and feeling need to be honored as dance partners, and I feel that that following the feeling and following the intuition and following curiosity, and I always keep learning new things. I love always learning new things. So I think that's the answer for me.
Beautiful. One last time to travel, the time, okay? Go with me onto that bus. The bus that 7 years old Ulla, and say goodbye to mom, and then went to hop into that bus and get into the audition. They were assuming that you and I are gonna sit there and you talk to that little Ulla. All right, you say, I'm Ulla. Years later. And this is the message that I'm telling you about our world in the future, the work we are doing. If there's one advice or one thing that you want to tell her, what would that message be?
I would just hold her and I would tell her, believe in yourself. And that's such a beautiful question. I think that's also, you are giving another tip for all the listeners. That's a really important question for all of us. And I would really say, keep following your heart, and it's going to be okay. No matter what, it's going to be okay. And because throughout the journey between then and now, there have been so many moments where I haven't believed in myself, and I felt not enough, or whatever else it has been. So I would just plant into her that you are never alone. You are always guided. You are always supported, even if it doesn't feel like it. You are always loved, and you don't need to deserve that love in any way or form. You are loved just as you are.
What a powerful message that anyone can give to themselves in this world, right? And imagine if we as strangers can give that beautiful message to anyone next to us, in front of us, behind us, right? Our neighbors, our community, anyone. See how beautiful this world gonna become. So Ulla, thanks so much for spending your time to join this conversation and share really, really amazing wisdom and insights to our audience. Your story is beautiful. I love you, and I look forward to the ability to see you in person one day, and that day the universe will send us the message to make it happen. Okay?
Thank you, and thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity to also, for me, to be reminded that I'm exactly where I need to be, and remembering those stories from the time travel, it really shifted something in me today. So you are my sign.
Thank you.
Today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have a beautiful day, and
You too, and much love to you and your family.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.